Fun fact for you guys, according to the FNaF 1 newspaper, today is actually the day of the missing children's incident. And by today, I actually mean tomorrow, but I'm recording this today and this video is going out tomorrow. So yeah, by the time this video is going up, today is the day of the missing children incident. And I really had to do a theory for today, and I kind of wanted to do like a video on the missing children incident, but I've already done one a while ago on when it took place. And there's not really another video that I could do. I have another video coming up called The Actual Victim, the actual first victim of FNaF. But that kind of revolves around this theory. Or at least that video has to come out after this theory. So I thought, why not do this theory for today? And then, the actual victim of FNaF video will come out in the future. But for the day of the missing children incident, I decided to do a video on Midnight Motorist. Since the release of FNaF 6, the most confusing minigame of pretty much all of FNaF in the eyes of FNaF theorists has been Midnight Motorist. But I've realized that if you actually stop and think about it, Midnight Motorist is actually really simple. Recently, Underscore made a video primarily about Midnight Motorist, claiming that it's not what we believe to be. And while I really enjoyed that video, I disagreed with basically all of it. So in today's video, I'm going to explain everything to do with Midnight Motorist, so let's get started. I've talked about Midnight Motorist a lot in my recent videos, from my Shadow Freddy video to my video on Fredbears. There's a lot to talk about with this thing, but it's not really too complicated if you look at the information we are given elsewhere in the series. So to start with, who are we playing as? Underscore theorized in a theory video that the runaway kid is Andrew, and that we play as his father. But I explained in a previous video that Stitchline Games is simply not true, and Andrew is literally just a parallel and he doesn't exist himself in the games. Consider the fact that Cassidy, under Stitchline Games, is essentially useless, at least up until Security Breach. And that doesn't make sense because Scott confirmed that Cassidy was important to the series 100% before the newer lore happened, as he basically confirmed in the scrapped movie screenplays, where Cassidy was going to have a movie about her, which was meant to be probably the most accurate to the game lore. So under Stitchline Games, besides in Security Breach, she's essentially useless, but we still managed to find her name. But Andrew's name has never appeared anywhere. If he was canon to the games, we would have known about it earlier. Sure, we got Charlotte's name from the books, but we learned Charlotte to be the puppet after the first two trilogy books came out. Andrew's very existence started and ended in Fazbear Frights, a separate universe from the games. So who actually is the orange guy and who is the runaway kid if not Andrew? Well, it's who we have been theorizing since FNaF 6 came out. Orange guy is William Afton, and the runaway kid is the bite victim. Since we know this minigame is right after William killed Charlotte, and the fact that it's raining and there's a purple car in both minigames, it's safe to conclude that purple guy and orange guy are the same person. More information also comes from Curse of Dreadbear. The DLC has many references to 1983, and there are two new animatronics in this DLC as well, Grim Foxy and Dreadbear, a Foxy and a Fredbear. Does that sound familiar? Dreadbear is also heavily associated with head and the brain, making this an absolutely crystal clear reference to the bite victim, and Grim Foxy a reference to Foxy Bro, and the Grim Reaper, aka Death. Foxy Bro, Michael Afton, the cause of death for the bite victim. All this makes it clear that Curse of Dreadbear is supposed to be about the bite of 83 and the Aftons. There is also an Easter egg where in Curse of Dreadbear, if we flip the switch to Nightmare mode and press the button on the side of the monitor, if we flip back and turn around to look at the car behind us, the lights on the car are purple. This is clearly to reference the car in Midnight Motorist. And on the hill ahead of us is the same house from the FNaF 4 menu, which is also the same house from Midnight Motorist. After looking at the car, if we turn back, Dreadbear would be ahead of us, next to the house. Ah! Actually, I think he's behind the house, but still, near the house. With Dreadbear being the bite victim, it's safe to say that this house is his. But later on, this Easter egg was altered, removing the giant Dreadbear and replacing it with Glitchtrap, aka William Afton. dancing on the hill next to the house. And I think that makes it very clear that this house is his. This is William Afton's house, and not Andrew's. But there are some arguments to this. First of all, why is William orange instead of purple here? Well, it's actually very simple. In Sister Location, we were introduced to Michael Afton as an actual character, and he turns purple because of Ennard being inside his body. In his timeline, MatPat suggested that William Afton isn't physically purple, but only purple to show that he's a man in the shadows, and you can't really have him be colored black because the background was dark and we need to be able to see him. But Michael turned physically purple, and Scott actually confirmed this, saying that if anyone still didn't know the answer to the debate of the Bite of 83 versus Bite of 87, Mike Trap versus Will Trap, or the idea of Afton being literally or physically purple, to watch MatPat's timeline, meaning MatPat was correct in his answers for those things. William isn't physically purple, he is just shown as purple to represent him as a shadowy figure. So right now, in Midnight Motorist, while he isn't hiding in the shadows but just walking around his own property, he's not shown as purple, because he's not in the shadows. But there's also the fact that we see a dude on the couch watching TV just like Michael Afton often does, and that dude is wearing a gray shirt and has gray text, just like Michael does in FNaF 4. The text colors are never the same between the same characters if it's in two different games though. A good example of this is in FNaF World, when the same character, who is the Fredbear plush, has a different text color than he does at the end of FNaF 4. But the text color is still similar. They're still the same character though. So that makes it interesting that William's text color here is similar to the Fredbear plushie in the earlier minigames of FNaF 4, which could imply that the plushie is William, but I've already talked about this in a couple previous videos, such as the Real Jake video. Now, here's another problem people have with William being orange guy. The house is not the same as the Afton house from the FNaF 4 minigames, and that is correct. It's not the same house. But why is that? Well, it ties into what we hear in the retro CDs from Security Breach. When the first new therapist shows up in the CDs, she asks Vanessa about what happened to her parents. But this past doesn't quite seem to fit Vanessa. See, it's stated that Vanessa's father was named Bill. Bill is the short form name of William. This isn't the past of Vanessa, this is the past of one of William Afton's children, who told Vanessa to use this past as her own. This is the past of Elizabeth. So we can figure out what happened to Mrs. Afton based on this childhood. Afton and his wife decide to get a divorce. He's upset by this, because of course at this point he's not a child murderer yet. I think at this point he actually cared about his family. But he was enraged that his wife wanted a divorce, so he decides to make her look bad in court. He made Elizabeth lie about her in court in order to get custody of the kids. Mrs. Afton moves away, with no child custody at all. Afton and Henry also open Fredbear's Family Diner, but it's unclear whether this is before or after the divorce. Afton was angry with his wife, but he still misses her. Mrs. Afton moves to a secluded area, into a bungalow in a clearing surrounded by trees, near a bar named Junior's. Eventually, it's too much for her, and she can't take it anymore, so she sadly kills herself. William, while still kind of going crazy, is devastated by this, and it makes him slightly more careless when it comes to his children. Freddy's was also created, and soon after was Circus Baby Pizza World. Afton creates Ballora in honor of his late ex-wife. He also takes the house that she owned before she died. Sometimes they were there, sometimes they were at the house near Fredbear's. The Midnight Motorist house was Mrs. Afton's house before she died, and when she did, William took the house. This also explains the lump of dirt near the house. This is where Mrs. Afton was buried. Another interesting thing to note is the absence of Elizabeth Afton in Midnight Motorist. Surely she would be here. Mrs. Afton is dead, so it's not like she would be spending time with her. There isn't anywhere else Elizabeth can be, so where is she? Is it possible that she is already dead? How would it be possible for her to die before Charlotte? Did she actually die before Charlotte? Well, I'm going to talk about that all in another video, like I said, which will be the actual first victim of the series, and I'll also explain the order of all the deaths up until 1993. Now there's just two more things to talk about, the footprints and Junior's. Junior's is pretty simple. I don't think it's any Freddy's location. I think it's a bar, as I said during the storyline run-through at the beginning of the timeline, with Mrs. Afton moving to a house near the bar called Junior's. Junior's is just a bar. That's all it is. It's not a Freddy's, it's not Fredbear's or anything. As for why William wouldn't be allowed in there, I think he's probably an alcoholic, and maybe after Mrs. Afton or possibly even Elizabeth died, he caused a scene in the bar and was banned from going there again. And finally, the footprints. I've already explained the footprints in my video on Shadow Freddy, so I'll just explain it briefly here. People wonder why William would lure his own son and then be shocked to find him not home. But that's not what happened. Shadow Freddy, a being made of William's anger and hatred, went to the bite victim's window and lured him to Fredbear's, and the bite victim saw Charlotte getting killed. This is the incident that the bite victim saw that is referenced by the Fredbear plushie. He saw Charlotte die. And this also explains the line of, "What is seen in shadows is easily misunderstood in the mind of a child." This is why he's so scared of Fredbears. He saw Shadow Freddy and thought it was just Fredbear in the shadows, so he was terrified of Fredbear because of that. If you want more elaboration on that topic, make sure you check out my video on the most underrated FNaF character who ended up being responsible for the storyline as we know it, which is of course Shadow Freddy. But anyways guys, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, then please do leave a like and subscribe. Let me know if you agreed with my theory, and stay tuned for my next theory video, which will be about the actual first victim of FNaF, like I said. I have a few more theories planned after that, so stay tuned and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye guys!
Hey, I'm in the lead.
Yeah, you got it, Chief.
You say as I surpass you.
12 seconds later.
I like how Ozone says he's in the lead, and then he manages to make he manages to make it behind both of us.
I'm in the lead, guys. Everybody runs past him.